If you ask a group of millennials or zoomers who their favorite comedian is, I bet the most common answer you would get would be John Mulaney. He's exploded in popularity recently with stand-up specials, variety specials, and whatever the hell Big Mouth is. I mean, just scroll on TikTok for 5 minutes and you'll find an audio using his stand-up or something within that time. At the risk of sounding too cool, I've liked him since about 2013, so new in town era Mulaney. So imagine my excitement when I heard he would get his own TV show.
Working for Luke Cannon. I have an Emmy Award. And when you put it against this mirror, it looks like I have 2 Emmy Awards.
Oh, what a disappointment. The reason most people don't know about the TV show is that it was absolutely horrible. Bad. Terrible.
Horrible. Wretched.
Vile.
Appalling.
Useless.
Atrocious. Insulting.
Devoid of merit.
God, this was horrible.
The show revolved around John Mulaney, played by John Mulaney, living in New York City with his roommates Motif, a fellow stand-up comedian played by Seton Smith, and Jane, played by Nassim Pedrad, as he works for an eccentric game show host, Luke Cannon, played by Martin Short, neighbor Oscar, Elliot Gould, and friend/annoyance Andre, Zach Perlman, also pop into the apartment from time to time. It ran from October 2014 to February 2015 and was about John Mulaney's wacky life as a stand-up comedian. It was trying desperately to be a modern-day Seinfeld. I mean, they named it after a comedian's last name. It follows a comedian living in New York City. Directed by Andy Ackerman, interstitial stand-up segments, it all adds up. I even think John Mulaney is trying to give a performance similar to Jerry Seinfeld in Seinfeld, where it's not good, but it's kind of charming because he's having fun, so you're having fun. However, John Mulaney's incredibly wooden performance doesn't ring the same here, especially when the show isn't as fun as Seinfeld. For a sitcom about a comedian living with another comedian whose job it is to write jokes, the show is almost insultingly devoid of good humor.
I have bad news, guys. It's Andre.
It's Andre!
Why is he here?
I can't just stop by without telling you?
No, that is not how drug dealers work.
What's her problem?
She's just going through a breakup. Also, you're very unpleasant.
What's in your notebook?
Oh, that's actually not mine.
There's tons of jokes in here. If found, please return to Anthony Lapidus. That's funny. How are you about yesterday, by the way, when I couldn't finish the Delta Burke story? I mean, that's never happened to me before. You know, when I was in my 20s, I could tell the same story 3 or 4 times in one night.
There's also some humor on the show that hasn't really aged well, including a man in power sexually harassing a woman over the phone.
Hello, Stacy, you're on Celebrity. You guessed it.
Hi there, I'm here to help.
Oh, Stacy, you sound like a good girl. Like a good daddy's girl. I bet you drink all your milk and really enjoy it, don't you, Stacy?
And Nick Kroll putting on an exaggerated accent.
Then you and I have something in common, my amigo.
You've heard of shows being based on the comedy of Ray Romano, Louis C.K., XYZ, ABC, JAB, RONI, but this show takes this to a whole new level, shoehorning entire bits of Mulaney's stand-up almost word for word into the story in interstitial segments.
I've noticed lately, this is my regular speaking voice. I go into a whole different speaking voice when I'm in a public bathroom.
This is my regular speaking voice, but if I'm in a public bathroom and someone knocks too suddenly on the stall door, I go into a whole different speaking voice.
And that voice is, someone's in here! Someone's in here!
Which is, someone's in here! Someone's in here!
So they're
going to be like, I think there's a carnival barker in there.
I think someone's trying to drum up business.
I think someone's trying to drum up business for a carnival.
But once I was walking towards a subway at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was walking towards a subway, and there's this woman in front of me, and she was walking along, but she kept giving me, like, the over-the-shoulder, like that. A couple of months ago, I was at a subway station at 2 o'clock in the morning, all right? It's just me and this woman, and we're walking down the hallway. She's walking a few yards ahead of me, but she keeps giving me, like, the over-the-shoulder, like that, you know? Like, I don't think you could ever put together a heist of just women. Like, Ocean's 11 with women wouldn't work, because 2 would keep breaking off to talk shit about the other 9.
The problem is, the stand-up bits that he performs on stage do not work as well when forced into the story. The rule of comedy in sitcoms is to have a joke about once every 30 seconds, and when few to none of the jokes land, it's very painful to watch. It really feels like the episodes were written quickly and then immediately filmed, like there were no rewrites or anything like that. The show also has a habit of doing tributes to other better pieces of media like Young Frankenstein or Manhattan. The problem with it doesn't feel earned yet, like it did it in its first season. Let me compare something. It's like if a rapper complained about the pressure of being famous on their very first album. You know what I mean? Another weird flaw of the show is that some of the characters aren't utilized very well. When mentioning Andre and Oscar, I couldn't figure out a way to accurately describe them. That's mainly because they're just kinda there. Andre has storylines sometimes, but they're pretty inconsequential to the story, and Oscar is in like 2 or 3 scenes per episode and very rarely has his own storyline. Elliot Gould especially just feels like they wanted to add another name to the cast. Despite it being a multi-camera sitcom, there are a few weird segments that broke with the format of the show and it really didn't fit with the flow of the show. I admire them for trying to do something different from other standard sitcoms, but they really don't work.
A bathroom that's just mine. It's like I'm all grown up. No comedians anywhere. And look, non-plastic cup. Fancy. Old pill bottles just for me. Noisy couches. Tiny TV.
It wasn't all terrible though, as the best part of the show was interstitial stand-up segments because they're basically just John Mulaney stand-up redone, or entirely new bits, or sneak previews of bits that would show up in later specials. The series averaged about 1.74 million viewers per episode, with one random episode receiving 3.375 million viewers, due to it airing after an important episode of the NFL, and it received poor ratings and reviews from critics and the public alike. Mulaney even joked about the failure of the show on a November 2014 episode of At Midnight.
Look. You are the first to get rid of Mullaney this fall, but probably not the last.
This all led to Mulaney being cancelled after one season in February 2015. If you want a barometer of how bad the show is, Macaulay Culkin was in an episode of The Angry Video Game Nerd, but he wasn't in Mulaney's Home Alone themed episode. Believe it or not, I'm pretty sure the failure of the show is part of the reason why his next special, The Comeback Kid, is named that. Yes, of course, there's the Bill Clinton stuff, but I believe he was referring to himself after the failure of his sitcom and him releasing his special as part of his comeback. Another weird part about the show is that John Mulaney has proven himself through his stand-up and his character of George St. Geeklin from Kroll Show that he does have comedic timing and can do characters, but he really just seems to have a hard time playing himself on screen. But to paraphrase They Might Be Giants, you can't keep Johnny down, and he released the previously mentioned Comeback Kid special to critical acclaim. This was definitely the low point of Mulaney's professional career. I don't even like Big Mouth, but everything he did after the show was significantly better. I'm still a huge fan of John Mulaney, and who knows, maybe this is his lucky Louie. You know, a sitcom he makes that isn't well received before he blows up with his stand-up and makes a really amazing show before he gets cancelled. Okay, maybe not all those parts, but you get the idea. John Mulaney doesn't look back fondly on his time on the show. He even refers to running a whole sitcom as just not the best mindset to be in to be the funniest possible. Thankfully, Mulaney did not give up and kept pursuing stand-up and other avenues of comedy.